Hello all, welcome to HL Bio Lesson 26. Today we're starting Unit 2, Molecules and Transport, and our first lesson will be Molecules to Metabolism, which relates to section 2.1 of the textbook or PDF. Big thank you to Zoe, Jessica and Jens who will be doing our daily summary. Thank you. Okay, a few things to note about how to interact with this presentation, about need to know and want to know. I don't simply want you to watch this video all the way through. I'd really like you to be a bit more active in your note-taking. I want you to pause to reflect or to check your understanding in the textbook. And I also want you to go back and watch sections again just to ensure that you've got a solid understanding before you move on, and certainly before you come to class. I have also sent you a need to know and want to know document, and this is very important. As you are watching the video and taking notes, please be active in adding questions or references to things you didn't quite understand to this document. Anything related to the understanding skills and applications directly, I'd like you to put into your need to know section. In the want to know section, this is more for things that you are particularly interested in the area and would like to know more about, or simply have a related question related to this topic. And this is just stuff you want to know more about. So please use that document. That'll help me guide what we do both in the lessons and what I need to do a little bit more revision on in class. Today, first of all, I'm going to briefly introduce Unit 2, Molecules and Transport, and give you a look at the calendar up until Christmas. We're going to review the importance and characteristics of the 4 biomolecules that we looked at in Bio 2. And we're going to review metabolism and specific examples of anabolism and catabolism. So a lot of what we do today is actually revision from and following on from what we did in Bio 2, but obviously at IB to a higher level. Unit 2 is made up of 5 subunits. The first one is macromolecules, and this is looking at our carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acid, and it relates directly to 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, and 2.4. Then we're going to look at the structure of the cell membrane and different methods of transport that can be used in the cell. This relates to 1.3 and 1.4. Now this is the work that will probably take us up to Christmas, and we'll continue on after the break. After the break, we should get straight into some plant biology, and we're looking at the movement of water through the xylem in plants. We might also have time to look at the movement of sugars as well. A little bit of human biology or human physiology comes next for you doctors. We have our cardiovascular system. 6.2 relates to the gas exchange system, lungs and respiration. And also 6.4 relates to the heart and transport in mammals. Then we have a nice unit on enzymes and digestion. So 2.5 is our core unit relating to enzymes, and 8.1 is our HR, like we did with immunity last topic. And then we have 6.1 on digestion. So quite a bit of human physiology there also, as well as the biochemistry. This is quite a challenging unit. There's a lot of biochemistry involved, so we'll take it nice and slow and do lots of revision. And it will take us to around the start or mid-February to finish. There's also lots of practical opportunities, so we'll be spending a lot of time preparing for our internal assessments. Looking forward, we've just done our test on the 2nd and 3rd of November. You can see that the next 6 lessons are basically finishing off macromolecules. Then we'll have a revision session on the 22nd and 23rd, and I'm projecting that our tests will be the 24th and 25th of November. So please put that note in your diary. This may change, but of course if it does, I'll give you plenty of notice. Then the Christmas vacations are not too far away. Okay, the essential idea for this unit 2.1 is that living organisms control their composition by a complex web of chemical reactions. So I guess the key ideas are this element of control. Cells and living organisms that are a collection of cells have great control over their makeup. It's a very complex process, and this web basically refers to lots of interactions between particularly these four biomolecules. And we're going to look at that in class. This complex web of chemical reactions is essentially metabolism, which we'll look at in more detail soon. So that is our essential idea for 2.1. Please keep that in mind at all stages. Our first understanding is life is based on carbon compounds. So that word there, carbon, is very important. And these include carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, which are our DNA or RNA. This is under organic chemistry. And organic chemistry basically relates to any compound with carbon at the center of its structure. Biochemistry, which this all falls under, from the bio meaning life, we can see this is carbon compounds in living organisms. Now it's important to note that even though CO2 is very important for us, it's not considered to be an organic molecule. That's a little side note. All living things are made up of four main types of carbon-based molecules which interact with each other to carry out metabolism. So please try and get away from seeing them as individual groups of molecules that do a certain thing, but molecules that sort of interact with each other in many different ways throughout our body, lots of different chemical reactions going on, and this is what we call metabolism. So we're going to be looking at those from Bio 2, carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids, and also be spending some time looking at water, which is also essential for metabolism due to its unique properties. Okay, this is a nice little video which is on Haiku. I'd really recommend that you pause this video, you take some time just to do a little bit of revision on macromolecules. So you can see there, I'd like you to take notes on carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. Review the structure, function, monomers, polymers, the sources, where they come from, and anything else of note that comes out in the video. It's a nice little video there. So take a moment to pause and do that for me now, please. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that video, and what I'd like you to take note of now is two very important tables from the 2.1 PDF or textbook, and these are the types of molecules and the common categories of molecules related to each of these four macromolecules. Now I'm not going to simply read them off for you, but you need to know these before you walk into class. So please, however you do that, take some time now to also consider these important tables. Okay, carbon, a little bit on carbon. We know that organic chemistry and biochemistry is related to carbon compounds, so let's have a look at why that is. Why is carbon so important for life? The understanding shows us that carbon atoms can form 4 covalent bonds, allowing a diversity of stable compounds to exist. Now the important parts are underlined, 4 covalent bonds allowing for a diversity. So let's have a look at that in a little more detail. Now you might see some phrases like this in biochemistry. Statements like carbon is the keystone element for life, or that life is carbon-based. Here is our carbon atom. So you can see here it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 protons and 6 neutrons in its central nucleus. And it also has these 6 electrons orbiting the nucleus, 2 in the inner shell and 4 in the outer shell. Now that 4 is very important. We'll look at why in a second. We call it the keystone. Going back to our old architecture, if we built a stone arch, the keystone was that central piece that went into the arch to prevent it collapsing. So if you remove that, basically everything falls down. So carbon is like that central piece we put into a structure that keeps everything ordered, organized, and prevents it from collapsing, I guess. But you can see where that term keystone comes from. Okay, so let's go back to our atom. Carbon has 6 electrons, 4 in the outer shell, which can form covalent bonds, or which can share electrons with 4 other atoms. Now this number 4 is very important. This property of carbon results in a wide variety of possible configurations or shapes. So I've just put some of these down, and for you chemists, you might be able to spot what these are, but I won't go into it right now. But you can see that the fact that carbon can form 4 bonds with other atoms leads to a wide variety of shapes and also types of bonds. We can see there's some double bonds, we can see there's some triple bonds, we can see some wonderful sort of square shapes there as well, and a wide variety of shapes. So it gives us a lot of flexibility in our body on the type of molecules that we can form. So that there is the central importance of carbon. Moving on from this, I just wanted to note the basic elements of life. I'd like you to remember these. We can see there CHO particularly, very important for all of our biomolecules, but we can also see nitrogen, phosphorus, and sulfur. So these elements are the ones most commonly, which most commonly form covalent bonds with carbon in living things. Phosphate we can see in our nucleic acids, okay, in the formation of DNA and RNA, and sulfur can be found in some amino acids which form proteins. Methionine, which is really important in initiating the start of a polypeptide, and also cysteine, which is important in forming disulfide bonds, which relates to structure in proteins. We'll look at that a lot more when we look at the protein section. Okay, let's look at metabolism. Metabolism is the web of all the enzyme catalyzed reactions in a cell or in an organism. Now I've put enzyme in bold there. There's a nice section in your textbook about this, but we will spend a lot of time talking about enzymes specifically in 2 different chapters, one core and one HL. So I won't spend a lot of time talking about that now. Metabolism is the sum of the millions of chemical reactions which are happening in living cells. It's basically made up of anabolism and also catabolism. Anabolism is the synthesis of complex molecules from simpler molecules, and catabolism is the opposite of that. It's the breakdown of complex molecules into simpler molecules. So a nice little diagram here. We can see our simple molecules coming together using energy to create something larger. That is anabolism. And catabolism, we can see the breakdown of a complex molecule into smaller, simpler molecules releasing energy. I really like this diagram. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it now. One of the first things I'll do when you walk into class is to have you explain it to each other and make sure you understand this. Don't be too concerned about ATP there at the moment. You may know what that is from Bio 2, but we'll be spending a lot more time on that in class and also when we get to cellular respiration. So please take a moment to consider that nice little diagram there. Okay, now these are important. So from Bio 2 we saw that anabolism is the synthesis of complex molecules from simpler molecules, including the formation of macromolecules from monomers from condensation reactions. Now you should be familiar with these from Bio 2. And we can see here a couple of examples, and I'd like you to take note of that for class. And then we have catabolism, which is the breakdown of complex molecules into simpler molecules, including the hydrolysis of macromolecules to monomers. And again, I put an example there, and I'd like you to consider that one before class. And a final nice summary from the book, I think this is, metabolism can be thought of as the sum of all the reactions that work to hydrolyze large biochemical substances into smaller subcomponents, catabolism, but also anabolism. So that's a nice way to finish. I hope you enjoy, guys.